In September 16 years ago, I received the devastating news at 34 weeks pregnant that my daughter would either not survive birth or be born with differences to her face, hands, and feet. I honestly thought my life was over when I received that news. Up until that point, we had planned for a typical life, typical pregnancy. All the ultrasounds came back normal, and I always had this gut feeling that maybe something was wrong. And so my doctor said, if you still feel that at 34 weeks, I will let you get this ultrasound. And I peeked my head in at the appointment and said, remember when you promised me I could have another ultrasound if I still felt nervous? And so I had the ultrasound. And I remember the tech saying she'll be right back, and I knew something was wrong. I called my husband immediately and said the tech left the room to get the doctor. This isn't normal. And then he came into the room and said, there's an artifact in front of her face. We don't know what we're looking at. We need to send you immediately to the high-level ultrasound specialist. And I waited for my husband because I couldn't drive at that point. And we went there. They were waiting for us and spent 2 hours, multiple physicians examining. And they eventually told us the news that she would either not survive or be born with facial differences in hand and feet, and that there could be other things wrong that they couldn't see on the ultrasound. We were in complete shock because all of the ultrasounds we were told everything was fine, but clearly it was not. And I remember driving home and we were stuck in 5 o'clock traffic, and I just felt stuck. I don't think we said a word because we were both in shock about the news. Her nursery had been decorated. We were preparing for her birth. We weren't that far away from her being here, and we were told that we would have to find a new doctor in Charlotte that had a NICU, and they put us in touch with someone, and our entire plan had changed in an instant. I remember just feeling a heavy weight on my shoulders, and I honestly did not think I was capable of surviving the loss of a child or being the mother to a disabled child that had so many differences. And I honestly thought maybe I shouldn't be here anymore and no one will have to suffer. And that thought shocked me and made me realize that I had to pull through. And we met with the new doctor, and she knew that I needed just a little bit of hope to get me through. And she told me that I had to take care of myself and try to stay as calm and relaxed as I could to protect my baby. And so that's what I did for the next 4 weeks. Every day was difficult, and it felt like a heavy weight over our shoulders, and we had to tour the NICU just to know where we would be and plan the birth so that there could be doctors and specialists there waiting for her arrival. Those days were long and difficult, and I just took it day by day and held on to a tiny bit of hope that everything would be okay and that the doctors were wrong. We scheduled Sophia's birth on October 20th, and Mark and I went in the night before and got me set up, started the Pitocin, and I remember seeing a shooting star through the tiny hospital window and thinking, oh my gosh, that's a sign everything's going to be okay. In my eyes, everything being okay meant that the doctors were wrong and there was nothing wrong with her. There were no differences. And then the next day came, and Sophia was born at 12:35 p.m. And they took her away immediately to the corner of the room, and I kept looking around and asking, is she okay? Is she okay? And trying to look at people's faces to gauge what was going on, and no one would answer me. And I knew that she likely was not okay. But luckily she was able to breathe on her own, and once the doctors had finished, they brought her over and laid her on my chest, and I remember thinking, I've never seen another human like this before. And then a voice in my mind said, you need to comfort her. And I remember reaching my hand out to lay it on her as her eyes blinked up at me, and then they took her away for testing. And I think my brain was just trying to protect itself, and I was in shock, and I forgot what she looked like. And I was recovering from giving birth, and they said, you can go now. And I remember being in pain and saying, no, I can't go now. But I was avoiding going to see her because I was scared, and afraid to face this new reality that I had only learned about 4 weeks earlier. And I remember my husband said, I'll go. And he went to check on her. When he came back, he was beaming with pride and love and said, I changed her diaper. I've never changed a baby's diaper before. I was the first one to do it. And Natalie, she's going to be okay. We're going to love her. And it's going to be okay. And then I went to see her. It was the nighttime. And I remember being wheeled into the NICU, and I saw her crib, and I couldn't see her because the cribs were higher up. And I sat there, and then I remember the nurse taking her out of the crib and picking her up like this, and she just started baby talking her, and it was the sweetest thing ever. And that was the moment that lifted the heavy weight, and that voice again said, this is your baby. And she handed her to me, and I broke down crying, and the nurse held me, and she held Sophia, all of us together as I cried. And in an instant, I knew that I loved her, and I knew the power of a mother's love, because all of the shock melted away, and the fears, and just holding her in my arms changed everything. And I knew in that moment that I was going to be the mom that she needed me to be, and that I was going to find the strength to get through it for her. And that's how it was her entire 10 and a half years of life. If there was fear, doubts, stress with things she was going through and worries, if I would hold her, everything would melt away, and I'd live in the moment with her. She was an amazing little girl and taught me so much and changed me as a human being. But I just remember the moment I held her and how my world was just beginning. It wasn't ending as I thought it was. And that even though she was born with disabilities and differences, that life was going to be okay. And the love between us was a powerful thing. And little did I know all of the power of a mother's love and what it would give me the strength to do. But Sophia changed my life and changed who I was.